Hey guys. So as you know, one of the wonderful things about the industry that we are in, copywriting, is that you can work with clients from anywhere in the world. You know, if you live in a small rural town, doesn't matter. You can make as much as you want to and work with as many copywriting clients as you want to, because you can work with clients all over the world. But that said, you need to then be thinking about time zones. So how do you deal with time differences? Whenever you are booking a call with a client or setting up time to talk with them, you need to also remember to ask them what time zone they are in, or tell them what time zone you are in, because it can be really easy to forget that that's a factor, schedule something for a time, and then miss the appointment because you realize that they were in, if you're in the States, for example, you realize they were in Central Time and you're in Eastern Time. And that does not look good if you are missing calls with clients or missing deadlines or all that kind of thing just because of time zones. And now here's the thing, when you are setting up meetings with clients, also you want to be aware of how your calendar works and whether or not your calendar changes time zones depending on where you are. So here's an example. One calendar that I use, so I live in the Eastern time zone, my parents live in the Central, and I try to go visit them, 3 or 4 times a year. And previously, when I was using one type of calendar, the calendar would automatically change time zones. It would adjust to the time zone that I was in. Great. Or whatever. The calendar that I use now does not do that. So scheduling appointments got very, very complicated. So don't just throw things in your calendar and be like, okay, that's great, it's all set, Be very conscious when you are scheduling appointments, especially if you are in a different time zone or if you have traveled somewhere or anything along those lines, or if you're going to be in a different time zone. That's also tricky. Like if I'm going to visit my parents and I know I'm going to be taking calls then, I need to be especially careful and cognizant of the time zone that I'm actually going to be in. This is just one little annoying thing with being able to do business anywhere in the world and work from anywhere. So we'll take it, right? You also want to make sure that if you're using something like Calendly or something like Acuity to let your clients book appointments with you, make sure that number one, that it reflects their own time when they're booking, so that if I'm in the Eastern time zone and it's showing me Central, it's going to get very confusing. So you want to make sure that you've checked it to make sure that your calendar software, if you're using one, you don't have to be, but if you are, is showing the person who's booking in their time zone. Then also, if you're using calendar software and you're going to be traveling, make sure that your available hours are shifted as needed. If you want to be available from 9 to 5 when you're in the States, and you also want to be available from 9 to 5 when you are working in Europe, you may need to adjust the hours in your calendar. And that is that 9 to 5 US time, is that 9 to 5 European time, or I know that it's not a European time zone, but say for example, Greenwich Mean Time. So that's another consideration. The same time though, it's very easy and very quick to find out if the time is this here, what is the time somewhere else? This is one of those where it's just like, Google it. And I will do this all the time. If it's this time in Boston, what time is it in London? Or if it's this time in wherever, what time is it wherever? Take the extra couple of minutes to Google it and be sure that you are getting the time right. And I'm sure there are probably even like Chrome extensions or all kinds of other things. You could have that. I know on your iPhone you can set up different time zones. You can say, all right, if you have a client that you're always working with and they're in Australia and you are in Canada, you could put the I realize that's too specific. There's not just, if they're in Melbourne and you're in Alberta, you can set it up so that you have something in your iPhone where you can look at the time zone and be like, okay, this is I know what time it is where I am now. This is what time it is there. So if you're sending emails or if you're going to respond to emails or things like that, you can know when it's appropriate to do so in their time zone. So I know it's a lot. These are a lot of extra considerations when it comes to working with their clients. But again, this is such a small price to pay for the ability to work from anywhere and also to work with clients anywhere. So yes, are they a little bit annoying? Yes. Is it extra steps that you wouldn't have to take if you were working with someone in your same town? Yes, absolutely. But think of how much bigger and more successful your business can be, knowing that you can work from anywhere and that you can work with clients anywhere in the world. So that is what I have for you today. I hope that is helpful, and keep those time zones in mind.